right, let's take a look at number 1.
Yes.
How do we rewrite this in standard form, Sophia?
Okay. So first it's
5n for
5n to the fourth minus 9n to the third plus 3n to the second and then minus 5n.
Perfect.
So number of terms is polynomial of 4 and then the degree is 5.
So we have 4 terms, and what's our highest degree?
4.
So what do we call a degree of 4?
Quartic.
Quartic. And what do we call 4 terms?
Polynomial of 4.
I was trying to find like the graph that you were talking about. Where is it?
It's in 5.1 notes.
We're gonna have this.
I will give you a list of all the words, okay?
In order or no?
No, not in order. You guys have to know which word goes with which number.
Okay, so
What do
we
you
have
mean,
like a
what
word
word?
bank.
So like, if it has a degree of 1, it's a constant. So like on the word bank, I'll have constant, linear, quartic, quintic, quadratic, but it won't be in the same order of 1 through 5, so you have to know which word goes with which number. Welcome. Okay, let's look at number 2. It's already in standard form, so we don't need to do anything. What's the degree? Let's do that first. The degree is 0. So if there's no x's in it, our degree is 0. And what do we call something with a degree of 0?
Constant.
Constant. And how many terms do we have?
1.
And what do we call something with 1 term? Monomial. Perfect.
So the term, the degree is this one?
Yeah, the degree is 0 because there's no x's.
Oh, okay.
Okay, number 3. What's our degree?
2.
If it's just x all by itself, do we have any number up here? It's like an imaginary 1. So our degree would be 1. What do we call something with 1 degree?
Linear.
Linear. And what's the number of terms? 1 term. And it would be? Monomial. Number 4. How do we rewrite this in standard form? So remember, standard form, we start with the biggest, like x term. So since k to the 5 is the biggest one, 5 is bigger than 2. So we have to write that one first. So this is standard form. Now, what is our highest degree?
5. Quintic, right?
Quintic. And how many terms do we have?
2.
2 terms. And what do we call something with 2 terms? Binomial. Yes. No, you could just write quintic and binomial. I just write it so you can see that 5 is no. If you guys just want to look at it and see that 5 is your highest and you just want to write quintic, that's fine. I just write it so you guys can like see that the degree is 5, and that's why it's quintic. So for these, you just have to write it in standard form and write the 2 words that go with it.
So the degree is the exponent that is the most?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay, number 5. How would we rewrite this in standard form?
9.
So we have to combine the 2 in order to just get negative 5n squared. So if we have something with the same x term, we have to combine those 2 together. And then what comes next? Minus 7. So what is our highest degree?
2.
And what do we call something with the degree of 2? Quadratic. And how many terms do we have?
2.
And what do we call something with 2 terms? Binomial. Okay, number 6. It's already in standard form, so we just need the degree, which is 3. What do we call something with the degree of 3? Cubic. And how many terms do we have?
1.
So we have 1 term, and what do we call something with 1 term? Monomial. 7. How would we rewrite this in standard form?
Alright,
9x. Perfect. Then 8x to the 3.
7,
Then 7x to the 2. And then 6x. It's perfect. We start with the highest one, which is x to the 4, and then just go down from there. What is our highest degree we have?
4.
And what do we call something with the degree of 4? Quartic. And how many terms do we have?
1.
What do we call something with 4 terms?
okay.
A polynomial with 4 terms. Remember, there's only a name for 1, 2, and 3. We have monomial, binomial, and trinomial. But if it's more than that, we just call it the polynomial with 4 terms.
And if it's 5 terms?
Polynomial with 5 terms.
Just anything above 3, but
Yep. You just name it by the number. What term comes first here in standard form?
6x to the 3rd.
Negative 6x to the 3rd. What comes next?
And 4x to the 2nd.
Negative 4x to the 2nd. And next one?
Negative 4?
Negative 4x. And what's the last one?
Negative 1.
Negative 1. So what's our highest degree?
3.
What do we call something with the highest degree of 3? Cubic. And what's our number of terms?
4.
So it would be a polynomial with 4 terms. Any questions on this first part? So remember, on your quiz tomorrow, you just have to write, let's look at the first one. You just have to write it in standard form. If it's already in standard form, you don't have to write anything. And you just have to write the 2 words. So that's all I'm looking for. Standard form, and name it by the degree and by the number of terms. Okay, let's go to number 9. Describe the end behavior of each polynomial. So which term are we going to look at to describe the end behavior? X to the 8. We're always looking at the biggest term. So here, our biggest x term. So x to the 8. 8 is the biggest x term we have. So that's what we look at. We can ignore the rest of it. So is this positive or negative?
Positive.
Positive. So how's the graph going to end? Up. And is it even or odd?
Even.
Even. So are they both going to go in the same direction or opposite directions? Same. So it'll be up and up. Remember, if it's positive, it'll always end going up. Let's go to number 10. We have negative x to the 6 minus 10x to the 4 plus 9. Which term are we looking at here?
Negative x to the 6.
Negative x to the 6. So we can ignore the rest. We're just looking at the biggest one. Is it positive or negative?
Negative.
So how's our graph going to end?
Going down.
And is it even or odd? Even. So are they going to go in the same direction or same? So it'll be down and down.
You just answered by drawing the arrow.
Yep. Or you could just write the words down and down, whichever you prefer. I think it's easier to just draw the arrows. Okay. Let's go to 11. What term are we looking at here? X to the 7. So we can ignore everything else. Is this positive or negative? Positive. So it's going to end going up. And is it even or odd? Odd. So how's it going to start then? Down. So odd goes in opposite directions.
if it's odd, it starts down, or it doesn't matter where it goes down? Like,
So if it's positive, it's always going to end going up. If it's odd, they're going to go in opposite directions.
doesn't matter which order though, like.
Yes.
if you go up, down, or down.
It matters which order, because if this was negative
Was
and
it
odd,
flip
it would be the
damage?
opposite. It would be up and then down.
So it's like
Oh,
flip.
okay.
Yeah, the negative would be this, but flipped. So it matters which order. Okay, number 12. What term are we looking at?
Next to that.
X to the 9. Is this positive or negative? So how's it going to end? Going up. And is it even or odd? So are they going to go in the same direction or opposite directions? Opposite. So how's it going to start? So we have down and up. Okay, 13. Which term are we looking at here?
25x to the 4.
Negative 25x to the 4. Is this positive or negative? Negative. So how's it going to end?
Down.
So it ends going down. Is it even or odd?
Even.
Even. So is it going to go in the same direction or opposite direction?
Same.
Same direction.
Same. So it'll be down and down. Okay, and last one from this section, 14. What term are we looking at? X to the 6. Is this positive or negative? So how's the graph going to end? Is it even or odd? Even. So how's it going to start? Up. So since it's even, they go in the same direction, so we have up and up. Yes. 13 is down and down. So remember, in this section, you have to look at the biggest x term. So x with the highest exponent. Any questions from this part? All right, let's go to the last one. So find all zeros and graph. So how do we find the zeros?
You have to, what's it called? Subtract it.
So we set each part of this equation equal to 0. So we have x plus 5 is equal to 0, and x plus 3 is equal to 0. So now how do we get x all by itself?
-5.
We subtract 5, so we get x is equal to -5, and we subtract 3, so we get x is equal to -3. So our two zeros are going to be -5 and -3. So now we need to go to our graph. And where are 2 points on the graph going to be? -5 and -3. Now going back to the original equation, how many x's do we have here? Are any of them negative? No. There's no negative signs in front of the x's in our original equation. So we're looking at a x to the squared graph. So is x to the squared positive or negative? It's positive. So how's our graph going to end? Going up. And is it even or odd? Even. So is it going to go in this? Is it going to start in the same direction or opposite? Same. So it starts going up also, and then we just connect the dots there.
How do you determine if it goes up or down?
The same way we did before. So if this is positive in front of the x squared, then it ends going up. And if this is even, then it's going to go in the same direction to start. So we're determining the arrows here the same way we did in the last section. We're doing the same thing there.
Okay.
But in these equations, it doesn't tell us that it's x squared. We just have to count the number of x's.
Oh, right.
Okay, let's go to 16. How do we find our zeros here?
We, put both equations equal to 0.
Well, this one has 3 parts that we need to set equal to 0. So we have to put x is equal to 0, negative x plus 2 is equal to 0, and negative x minus 5 is equal to 0. So our first equation here is solved. We don't need to do anything else for that one. We just need to solve the next two. So how do we solve negative x plus 2 is equal to 0? What do we do first? We could subtract 2, or we could just add x to both sides. So we get 2 is equal to x, because those x's will cancel. But it also works if you subtract 2 and then divide the negative one. And what about the last one? What can we do for this equation? Same thing. We can add x to both sides. So we get negative 5 is equal to x. So our 3 zeros are 0, 2, and negative 5. So now we need to draw the graph again. And what are our points on the graph going to be?
Negative 5, 2, and 0.
Negative 5, 2, and 0. Now going back to our original equation, how many x's do we have?
3.
We have 3. So we have an x to the cubed graph. How many of these x's are negative?
2.
So if we have 2 negatives, what does that make?
2 going out.
2 negatives make a positive. So this would be a positive x cubed graph. So if it's positive, how's our graph going to end?
Going up.
Going up. And if it's odd, is it going to go in the same direction or the end direction? The opposite direction?
Opposite.
Opposite. So how's it going to start?
Down.
So it starts down. And now we just go through and connect the dots. So the only time that your line is going to cross the axis, the orange line going in the middle, is at one of those points. So it's only going to cross the orange line at 0, 2, and negative 5. So if we cross it at a different point, we know we did something wrong. Ready for 17?
Wait, sorry, at the problem before, why did we, end up, with the equation, adding the x's instead of, subtracting the 5 and the 2?
Well, you could do it either way. So we could solve for x. Let's do it over here. We have negative x plus 2 is equal to 0. We can subtract the 2, and we get negative x is equal to negative 2. So then we just have to divide by negative 1. So we get x is equal to 2. Either way works. It's less steps just to add the x. So 17. What do we do first?
X minus 5 is 0, x plus 3 equals 0, and then x equals 5, and then x equals negative 3.
Perfect. We get x is equal to 5 and x is equal to negative 3. Awesome. Now we need to draw a graph. So what do we do next? So we plot the points. We put the 5 and
And then, we plot the other point,
the -3.
and we put it both up, because, it's x to the second power. and
So right, we have 2 x's, so it's x to the second power, and neither one of those are negative, so it's positive. So the end direction will be,
Up,
and how's it going to start?
up.
Up. And then we're just going to put a big loop down here. Ready for the next one? Let's skip 18 because it's the same thing. Let's go to 19. Yep. 17. We have 2 x's, so it's even, so they have to be going the same direction. We'll do 18 also. Extra practice. So what do we do first? Dom, what do we do first? Perfect. Kervin, what did you get for x? Either one. Perfect. So now I draw a graph. Yes, yeah. Kervin, what points are we going to plot on our graph? -1 and 4. How many x's do we have in this original equation? 2. So we're going to have an x squared graph. Are any of our x's negative? No. So how's our graph going to end? Up. And how's it going to start? Up. And we just connect it there. Okay, let's go to 19. What do we do here?
X plus 3 equals 0, x plus 4 equals 0, x plus 8 equals 0.
Perfect. So what do we get for x? Awesome. Now we need to graph them. What points are we going to put on our graph? -3, -4, and -8. And now how many x's do we have in our original equation? 3. So we have an x to the cubed graph. Are any of them negative?
No.
No. So it's a positive x to the cubed. How's it going to end? So, since it's positive, it ends going up, and it starts going down. And then we just connect the dots in the middle. Yes.
Why does it go down?
Because it's odd, so it's going to go in opposite directions. Since it's positive, it ends going up, and it's odd, so it's going to start going down.
And if it was negative x, it would be.
Then it would end going down and start going up if it was negative.
Oh, alright.
It would be like flipped.
Always write how it ends first.
I do just because it's easy to think that if this is positive, it's going to end going up. No matter what, if it's positive, it ends going up.
Yeah, I see. Alright.
Okay, last one, number 20. What do we do first? Anybody?
X minus 1
X minus 1 is equal to 0. X minus 5 is equal to 0. Are we missing one?
And x equals 0.
And x is equal to 0. We can't forget about this x out here. So now when we solve for x, we get x is equal to,
1,
and x is equal to
5.
5. So we have our 3 x's here. Now we draw our graph. So what are our points on our graph going to be? So we put one at 0, 1, and 5. How many x's do we have in this original equation? We have 3. So we have an x to the cubed graph. Are any of the x's negative? No. So we have a positive x to the cubed. So how's our graph going to end? Going up. And it's odd, so how's it going to start? Going down. So it's odd, so they're going in opposite directions, and then we just connect the dots in the middle. Any questions on this last section? No questions? You guys ready for your quiz?
Pretty much.